Hi, hello everyone, good afternoon. You're listening to Talking Jobs with me, rbromnick, and today I'm going to introduce you to our guest, Lynn Wakefield. So we've got Lynn in today. Hi, Lynn.
Hi there.
So we're going to be asking Lynn some questions. Lynn, you're one of our careers advisors, aren't you?
I
am. Well, you're quite new to the university. When did you start?
So I started in September last year.
Okay. Now, would you mind me pointing out, because this is only audio, that I'm guessing you're quite experienced in the workplace?
Are you saying that I look old?
No, I'm saying you look wise.
Okay, so...
Wise in it. So what sort of things have you done in your own career? I'm really nosy about people's jobs and things.
Okay, so my most recent career was running my own human resources consultancy business, which I ran for 13 years. Had a fantastic range of clients. Most of them came to me by word of mouth. Mainly start out by looking at different organisations' human resource policies, and then start working with them to think about how they can improve their working lives of the people that work for them, obviously helping them through disciplinary grievance processes, etc.
Interesting.
Prior to that, I was an HR director across a couple of organisations and made myself redundant at that point.
So you ran a company and made yourself redundant?
So I made myself redundant, then ran my business.
Okay.
But I found that my parents were getting quite ill. So my dad's got Parkinson's, mum's got dementia. I wasn't able to continue running the business, stopped working altogether.
And
was
here you are
terribly bored and delighted to have 2 days a week here working with students
we
at the
can
university.
take good use of your skills. Now, would I be right in thinking you've looked at lots and lots of CVs over time?
In my time, yes, I have spent many an evening at the kitchen table
looking at people's CVs. Now, next question. Would it be true to say, I don't know, have you ever looked at someone's CV and looked at maybe one of their qualifications or experiences and thought, that's a little bit unusual?
Yes, and that kind of encourages you to read on.
Okay.
So often when you're looking at CVs, you tend to see the same thing.
Right, okay.
So people think that they have to match 100% of the criteria.
Right, okay.
And for me, it's more about the personality as much as what the qualifications are.
Well, I'll tell you about one of my qualifications.
Okay.
See if you think, that's unusual. I have a qualification in woodwork.
Okay.
Do you think that's a bit... I was expecting you to go, that's unusual.
Well, it means that you've got a life.
Yeah. So I got that at school.
Okay.
Back in the day, I did O-levels, but now our listeners, they might have done GCSE. So it was equivalent to like a GCSE. And then, many years later, I married a woodworker.
See, it was in your genes.
It was there. It was destiny, wasn't it? So... Now, I don't know what you do on a Friday night, and I won't ask you, but this is what I do on a Friday night. I listen to YouTube. So my husband and I, we watch a YouTube show. Mm-hmm. He watches, I listen. And it's by a chap that's called the Wood Whisperer.
Okay.
Wood Whisperer. That's not his real name. I think it's called Mark Spaglione or something. He does a show with his wife.
Yeah.
And what happens on the show is people send in questions. And Mark... the Wood Whisperer answers them. Mm-hmm. And it was listening to the Wood Whisperer live that gave me the idea for the podcast.
Brilliant.
So people write in or they've got like a forum where you can... So people say things like, let me have a think. They say, we've got Bob from Arkansas saying he's making a chopping board for his wife. And can you recommend a food safe finish or something?
Yeah.
And Mark will answer. And I just thought, that's a great way to learn. It's fun. And also, I did think, you could just Google how to finish your chopping board. But there's so many different... I think you need to go to a trusted source, don't you? You know, you sometimes want to know who you're talking to. So this podcast... we're going to channel our inner woodwork.
Get me saw out there.
Yeah, get your saw out. So this is a first of a series where we're asking people to write in, and we've got some questions from people that we're going to sort of ask Lynn her advice about and draw on your experience. So we were talking about CVs. Mm-hmm. I mentioned about O-level in woodworking. I do have some other O-levels. Not many, I should say, but never mind, here I am. So what about one of our listeners has written in, or they're interested in knowing where they can get help with a CV or an application. So what can you offer someone who wants to get started putting together their own profile?
Okay. So there are a range of different opportunities for someone to access services from the Careers and Employability team.
Okay,
some of them are online, some of them are face-to-face. So it really depends on what suits an individual at a particular point in time. If they aren't thinking of applying for a specific job role at this moment in time,
so they've seen an advert and they want to apply.
Yeah, but if they're not at that stage, if they're kind of thinking, do you know what, I need to start to think about a CV.
Yeah.
But I'm not at the stage yet where I want to apply for roles.
So like a general CV.
Yeah, sure. Then what I would always suggest to anyone in that situation is that you start to think about creating a CV data bank.
Oh, that's a good idea. So what would that involve, or what would that look like?
So there are lots of... A great starting point is to actually look at the format of a CV that the Careers Service recommend. So you can go onto our website and find out what that looks like. Equally, you can go onto Blackboard, and there's a CV builder under the Careers tab in Blackboard. So what you would do is following those headings, so it actually gives you a clue as to the kind of things.
Like a template or something.
Yeah, absolutely. You would complete the information that relates to you in terms of your education, any employment or volunteering that you've undertaken so far, thinking about the skills that you have gathered along the way. So you kind of have a first go at dumping all of that information.
Filling the boxes.
Yeah, absolutely. So what I say to people at that stage is don't worry about crafting it, making it look beautiful. Just get the stuff out of your head and into your data bank.
Okay.
Once you've got that, you've got a fantastic starting point in terms of creating what I would suggest would be a bespoke CV for any specific role.
So you can then pick out.
You go shopping in your data bank in order to choose the elements which best meet the needs in terms of what the employer is asking you to present.
What about, does the template and things allow you to put in your sort of skills as well as your experience?
Yes, it does.
And things?
So you can think about that from specific skills to do with your university courses or your different modules.
Yeah, I was thinking from the psychology point of view, people could look over their module outlines.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
see what sort of skills have been developed in their assessments.
Yeah, and even as a starting point, use that language.
Okay,
you don't need to reinvent the wheel at this stage because you're not creating something with a specific employer in mind. So if we're then looking at, say there is a job advert and we're interested in applying for a particular role, then what we do is we encourage people to look at the person specification of that role and start to look at the language the employer is using.
And then you can use that.
You can use the same language back. It's from a psychological perspective, when they're reading your CV and you've used their language, my goodness, it's as if they were made for this role because they're talking our language. So there's a lot to be said for thinking about how to tailor it in that way.
People will have that experience because as somebody who sets students' assessments, it mirrors that, doesn't it? If I sort of say critically evaluate developmental theories or something, and then somebody says in their essay, I'm going to critically evaluate development. It's like, you understand what I'm asking for.
Absolutely,
so people will have those experiences.
But that's brilliant, Rachel, because what you're doing is you're kind of giving everyone a clue in terms of how transferable and how incredibly transferable those skills are in terms of then looking from a job search perspective.
Yeah. There are different, you mentioned about the template, and there are personal preferences for CVs,
absolutely.
Because I've seen more CVs recently where people have, would you call it a banner or something at the top that says, I don't know, funky woodworking psychologist seeks a YouTube sensation or something.
Yeah.
What do you think about that sort of style where you have the sort of little self-promotion at the top?
Absolutely critical. Absolutely critical to write it in the third person because, again, the reader then believes that someone else is talking in a complimentary way about the person that they're reading about. What I guess we've got to remember is quite often nowadays we aren't actually applying for roles using a CV. We're applying
more
for
applications, aren't they, online and things? Yeah.
CV data bank is still critical because it still provides you with that area to go shopping in and start to populate your application.
Well, that's
equally, when you're completing application forms, if you then, when you've got the finished article, you cut and paste that back into your data bank, you don't have to start from scratch.
Oh, that's brilliant advice. Right, let's move on to the next question.
Can I just say one more thing?
Of course.
So, if students have got to that stage and they would like someone to give them some one-to-one guidance.
Oh, okay, you can provide that.
Yep, so our skills advisors between 1 o'clock and 4 o'clock, Monday to Friday.
And that's at the bottom of the library? You can just drop in.
So instead of turning left to the library, you turn right to the career centre.
Left for a book, right for a job.
Bring your CV with you, bring a copy of the person specification with you, and the skills advisors will read through it, give you any hints and tips as to how you could improve it.
I think it's good as well for things like proofreading.
Absolutely.
As well as the content.
It's really hard to proofread your own stuff, I think.
Yeah, really hard. Oh, that's great advice. Are you ready now to move on?
I am.
Okay.
Thank you.
So we've had another question from one of our listeners. And this is somebody saying, what would you think is the kind of best time to get volunteering or work experience? So we've done a recording looking at the value of those things. Mm-hmm. And someone here is obviously recognising that, but the question's about timing.
Okay.
So when would you say is the best time, they're asking you?
Okay, so I guess there are two separate answers. So in terms of work experience, any time during your journey through your studies at the university is a great time to get work experience. And some students and some of us will have more time at different times during our journey than others. So I would always say to people, make sure that your studying comes first, because that's what you're here for. Yeah. If we're thinking about it from a volunteering perspective, then I guess what we've got to remember is that a lot of the organisations that offer us volunteering opportunities want to see a return on their investment. Yeah. So their investment
can take a lot, can't it, to train somebody up?
Absolutely. So they're likely to be for psychology students and the kinds of volunteering roles that psychology students might feel are really appropriate for them. Yep.
Vulnerable groups.
So we've got CRB checks, and most often the employer is going to be paying for that. So the sooner that we can offer them ourselves in terms of volunteering, the better their return on their investment, which is really important. I remember giving a very mini lecture once on volunteering, and we'd got a couple of organisations in that offered volunteering opportunities. And I mentioned to students, it is about making sure that these organisations get a good return on their investment. And afterwards she said, Lynn, that was music to my ears. Thank you so much for saying it. So it's really appreciated as well if we do consider.
I think as well for our students, if you're going into organisations, you might start off in a bit like any job role. You might start off in quite a junior role.
Absolutely.
So you might be starting off helping with activities or working in some sort of team. But I know from some of our students who've taken that advice of starting early, have used their volunteering experience and really worked themselves through into the organisation, and they've been the ones who've gone on to take quite senior roles with training or new initiatives and things.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
So our message to that answer to that question, I think the answer is 1, when you're ready.
Yes.
And when you have the time and commitment.
Yeah.
But make it as early as possible.
Yeah.
All right, that's great. Now we'll see if we've got time for one more question. And that will be, we've got a good one here, Lynn. So this is from somebody who says, I love psychology, I'm happy with my degree, but I'm not sure that I want to go into psychology or into mental health. So what would you recommend for people trying to sort of network with different sorts of employers? That's not quite how they said it, but that's what they meant.
Okay.
So what sort of things can we offer to people who are looking outside of health and social care type of work?
Yeah, okay. So our mission is to get as many employers onto campus or students onto employer premises as we possibly can throughout each year. One of our key flagship events where we bring over 70 employers onto campus is our annual Find Your Feet Careers Fair.
Oh, that's great. That's over in the engine shed, isn't it?
It is.
That's a really good event if you've never been.
It's fantastic. But
what sort of time of year is that?
So that's in November. Last year it was on Halloween.
Oh,
so we had
October.
A few students turning up in Halloween costume, which was awesome. This year it's scheduled to take place on the 12th of November.
So put that in your diaries, everyone. It's a really good... And again, it doesn't matter where you are in your undergraduate or postgraduate journey, does it? Because you can come if you're a first year, can't you, just to start that networking. And
yes. Well, I think, and again, it's not just about thinking in terms of the end result of a career.
Yeah.
So Find Your Feet is also a great way, as you say, to network and to
to research, isn't it? To see what's there.
Yeah. But also, quite often, the employers that are there aren't just looking for graduates. They're also looking to offer work experience, shadowing opportunities, come and visit them for the day.
Yeah. We've had some people go onto the bank doing assistant healthcare roles and other sorts of things.
But it gives you an opportunity to have a softer conversation with those individuals. They're there specifically to engage with students. So it's less like a scary formal networking event.
So it's more informal.
Yeah.
And also I think it's worth our students thinking outside the box, isn't it? Because, I mean, this question was for somebody who was looking to apply their trade elsewhere. But I know at Find Your Feet, in the past we've had like Anglian Water.
Yeah.
And they quite like psychology students.
Absolutely.
Because I don't know if you know, they've got like a specialist, well, it's a bit sad. There's like a specialist like debt collection department.
Okay.
So who's ever calling those people who've got in arrears and things has to have that extra level of, and if you get that role, you get paid a bit more because it sort of comes with extra responsibility.
Also,
so you wouldn't think like psychology, Anglian Water.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean about encouraging people to get there. Right. What else can people do then?
So you just mentioned Anglian Water, which is a brilliant example. But also, if you think about it, marketeers.
All right, okay,
behavioural insights are critical to the success or otherwise of any marketing campaign.
There's lots of good social psychology people can apply.
Or, of course, you can go and play with the behavioural insights team in London, who in fact, are based in Manchester now as well.
Oh,
I've been trying to get them onto campus because I'm really interested.
We do, yeah. I know that one of our students was, she had a summer internship with that sort of company.
Okay, yeah.
And they were rigging people up. I don't know if it was like EEG or fMRI or what it was, and looking at parts of the brain reacting to different advertising stimuli and things like that. So,
well, as you say, it's really well researched now, and I think a lot more commercial organisations are going to start to use that kind of approach. So the opportunities for psychology students are going to really widen, I think, in terms of commercial organisations as well as the more traditional third sector routes.
The public
healthcare,
and private health
absolutely.
and that sort of thing.
Yeah. So I've mentioned Find Your Feet. We're also running a mini careers fair on the 12th of June for recent leavers and graduates.
Right,
I think you've very kindly already promoted that.
I've tried to promote that.
Which so we're running a whole week's worth of events.
Right,
we are yet to unveil what that looks like.
Right, okay.
So everyone needs to watch this space in terms of what it does. I know it's nearly June, but we will be doing some really...
So some of those will be on campus?
All of it will be on
but
campus.
Will people be able to access things?
Yeah, there'll be some online stuff as well.
Okay, that's what I meant.
Yeah, absolutely. So we will have a number of employers coming on campus. We'll have people running workshops. So if we've got any recent leavers, third years, people that are about to graduate, wondering what to do, that's a week that's
what about
specifically
somebody
for them.
typically for our students that then they might know what they want to do, but they might be thinking of taking a year out or doing some work en route to some other sort of training.
Absolutely,
so they could come along and
yes, they can.
That'd be brilliant. Oh, that sounds good. Look out for that 12th of June, Leavers Fair.
So we also, throughout the year while the students are on campuses, have regular drop-ins at the Careers Centre, usually just outside our door. So whichever employer turns up, they're usually cold if it's in February.
That's down in the library.
It is, yes, yeah. So we've had the National Citizen Service, Lincolnshire Police, Frontline, who look at social work. We've also had Teach First. RAF have come and done quite a few different sessions. In fact, they got bored with standing outside the Career Centre and went and chatted to students in the library. Just wandered off, which was great.
Resourceful.
We also run our annual How to Get a Job With series, which runs generally between October and February. There are some employers that come outside of that because it suits them. That is usually where we are inviting top 300 graduate employers onto campus to talk with our students from any year about how they can get a job with their particular organisation.
Brilliant.
So they tend to talk about why it's great to work for them.
Okay, they promote their own company.
Yeah, they do. But then they give some really good insider tips as to how to get through the applications process.
So some of these companies might be ideal for somebody looking beyond mental health work.
Yeah. And they
have their skills recognised.
Sometimes it's not until we sit and hear someone talking about their job that we think, oh, that would be quite interesting.
I'm totally like that. I think for all of them.
So students don't need to not come because they think, oh no, I'm sure I don't want to work for Teach First or Age UK or IBM.
Yeah.
Come anyway.
Yeah.
Because these employers...
You don't know what someone's doing
absolutely.
from the title.
Yeah.
Well, that's brilliant, Lynn. We've answered a few questions.
We could go on all day.
We could. Do you have any final comments? Because we should sign off.
Okay. Final comments are, if a student is unsure where to find information about employability in general, then our website's a great starting point. We don't bite. Just every now and again, turn right instead of turning left when you come to the library and come and see us.
Or click on the careers tab.
Yeah, do that, but I'd rather see them.
Yeah, it'd be great to see them. Well, thanks, Lynn. Thanks for all that you're doing for our students. We'll finish there. So thanks, everyone. That was Talking Jobs with me, Rachel Bromnick, and our guest, Lynn Wakefield. Thanks, Lynn.
You're welcome. Bye.